Hello, boys and girls, and those in between. My name is Maliena Bitch Talk. Woo, Maliena Bitchcock, and welcome to Bitch Talk with Bitchcock. And this week and this episode, I am very happy to announce I have the one and only Bonnie Rose. Hey!
Hi!
How you doing, baby?
I'm good. You know, drinking at like 5:30 in the afternoon, like a normal person. Usually I don't start drinking until 10, so it's exciting.
Cheers, baby, cheers.
There you go.
So, how are you surviving quarantine?
I'm doing okay. I'm lucky enough to be able to work from home, so that's great. So I'm just spending a lot of time observing my cat, and Uranus temporarily moved in. So a lot of Netflix watching. So it's going pretty okay so far.
Oh, I love that. You know? Well, are you ready to dive in this interview, bitch?
Let's do it.
Oh, there's so much to learn about you. So, Bonnie, tell me first and foremost, what made you actually want to start drag?
I mean, like a lot of my growing up, my grandma was really into RuPaul's Drag Race, so I kind of grew up like seeing drag a lot, but I never thought it was something I was allowed to do. So after I turned 21, and I guess like even before, because I was going to some of Wayward Land's Glamature Hours, which is where I saw you. But yeah, so I just started going to shows and meeting people, and seeing like different artists online, and noticing that drag is open for everyone and it is a possibility. And so I just wanted to just kind of do it. And a lot of it was inspired by not seeing like a ton, like luckily in Eugene, we do have a pretty good scene of, non-traditional cis male drag queens, which is awesome. But I just kind of wanted to like broaden that and put my own spin on it. So I ended up just starting, and I really loved it, and I haven't stopped.
I love that. That is fantastic. So when did you first start?
I started, I think it was June 8th, 2018, and it was at Cookie's Cabaret.
Oh my gosh, so you are, so Bonnie is 2 years old, correct?
Almost, in June, 2 years in June.
Oh my gosh, she's not even 2 years old yet, but
no.
look how, like, you are so polished looking. One thing that I have so much respect about you is that, you know, you put in a full look and you don't half-ass your looks. You know, you have your hair, you have your outfits, and you have the makeup. You know, tell me a little bit what inspired you, and where kind of you started in drag.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bonnie's changed a lot since I started. She first kind of started, I don't know, and she still is kind of like this ode to that sort of bimbo-y girl, that stereotype of the sorority girl that wears a lot of heavy makeup and is super bubbly, and these ideas that they're like annoying or stupid or like less than, where I think there's a lot of power in that, and I think there's a lot of power in just kind of doing whatever the fuck you want. And not caring about these limitations that if you're a woman or you're a femme, that you have to act a certain way or look a certain way to get respect. And I think Bonnie first started off just kind of emulating that character. And as I've gotten to do it more and kind of get to know the character and myself more, it's turned into a lot of a stronger like place of kind of like fuck you, respect femmes, respect trans people, respect non-traditional drag and all of that, and kind of taking power back in this identity that's so like bubblegum femme and seems so soft and helpless, but fuck, I'm kind of like a bad bitch.
And you know, that's fantastic. One thing I've always loved about Bonnie is when I first met you, actually when I first met you, you weren't doing drag, and I think it was at Pride.
Yeah, it was Pride 2017 or 2016. I think it was 2016. It was Pride 2016.
It was a long time ago, girl. And, you know, the thing that I really loved from meeting that person to this beautiful creature who's in front of me now, there's such a difference, so much more confidence. you know, and I love the creativity that you're able to do. So one thing I've wondered, and I really think the audience needs to know is, now I call you a drag queen because to me, you are a drag queen. Now, are there any proper terms that people should refer to you as? Because you were born a female, correct?
Yeah, I was assigned female at birth, and I identified that way for a good chunk of my life. Personally, for me, I just like the term drag queen. There's a lot of different terms out there, and each person can kind of choose their own that they want to use. Some people use the term hyper queen if that's what feels right to them. I just prefer drag queen. If there needs to be an identifier, then you can say, you know, like AFAB, assigned female at birth. But I think what we're really trying to get away from is having those separate terms to keep, you know, people who do them separated by their gender or their assigned gender, because that doesn't really have a ton to do with it, does it? But I think especially, at least for me, where I'm coming from, I know that I do have a lot of privilege being in the drag scene, as being someone assigned female at birth. And so I think it is important, while using the name drag queen, that everyone's doing their research and like respecting the history and honoring the fact that, you know, being into this and having this environment came from a lot of struggles of other people, and to not discount that.
I actually really appreciate you saying that, because one thing that I really find important is where we come from as a community and what they had to put up with back in the day. And, you know, I know when gay people and transgender people and just the culture and, you know, lesbians, everyone was being repressed and it was not okay to be who we are, you know, they had to deal with so much. And, you know, with what they dealt with at Stonewall and having to wear, I believe, like a certain amount of clothing that they, to their assigned birth at all times, otherwise they can be arrested. So, you know, I think where we come from is so important, and the fact that you recognize that means so much to me, baby, so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone can do drag and everyone should be able to do drag, and I'm happy that we have gotten to a point where that, you know, is understood. But I do also know, like, if I'm walking down the street after a gig with a full face of makeup, I'm going to be treated a lot differently than other people may. So there's an understanding that I think is necessary to have, of like where I stand in that and how I can help others and whatnot.
Oh my God, that's so fucking beautiful. And by the way, you can cuss, just in case you were wondering.
I am a family-friendly queen. I never cuss. I don't know what you're talking about.
You know, I'm
publicist will
family-friendly too.
disturb you.
I'm family-friendly too, I promise. No, you know, we all have our different sides, Bonnie. I think you definitely have your family-friendly queen, but I've definitely seen you get a little adult on stage also.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm a little shit.
So Miss Thing, or, you know, actually Beautiful, I'm just going to call you Beautiful because I don't like the term Miss Thing with you. No problem. Do you tell me a little bit where you got your name, Bonnie Rose?
Oh, yeah. So when I was first started thinking about performing, I, again, didn't think I was allowed to do drag, so I was going to go into burlesque. And I was thinking of burlesque names for a while, and then one day I was just like sitting at work on my lunch break, and I was like, I like cats and I like roses, so maybe I'll be Kitty Rose. And then that's what I was gonna kind of go with for a while. And then I was like, no, I'm gonna do drag instead. I'll keep the name, it's still cute. And one day I was watching a bootleg of the musical Bonnie and Clyde on YouTube. And I don't know if it's just because like I'm in love with Laura Osnes or kind of the way that the show is written, but I was like, Bonnie's kind of cool. Like, I mean, obviously like the murder and the robbery is like not the best. But the way she was embodied in that show was just such like this beautiful woman who just kind of wanted to be a star, and she fell in love, and she was so deeply in love that she kind of fucked her shit up. And I don't know, I just thought that was really sweet, and I thought she had a lot of good characteristics that I thought were really powerful for a woman, especially back then.
Mhm.
And the name's just really cute, so it stuck around.
No, I absolutely love your name. Now, tell me a bit about the actual character that is Bonnie Rose.
She's something, isn't she?
Well, tell us about her or
um,
them.
I don't know, she's a lot of parts of me that I don't actually like have the energy to express all the time. And when I started Bonnie, it was kind of this way of being, because I've done performing my whole life, and I've done theater from like childhood through high school, and then I did Rocky, and now I do this. So I've always been a big performer, and it was kind of this way to like have a character and be the director and the costume designer and the makeup artist. And so it was all of these little things combined. And when I was thinking of what I wanted to make, it was a lot of like bubblegum pop, and it was a lot of these things that growing up, being socialized as a woman, I was taught, you know, like that's girly and that's gross and, you
Right.
know, that's so basic. And I wanted to take all this stuff because I'm like, I actually really fucking love shitty pop music and bright colors and like all of this over the top feminine stuff. And that's for me. Like, that's because I like it, and it doesn't have to be by the approval of anybody else. So I think that's a lot of what Bonnie's thing is it's kind of just like, it isn't for you. It's for me, and it's a lot of bubblegum, and it's a lot of proudly being a lesbian, and just saying kind of like a fuck you to all of these ideas of what everything means. And especially like Bonnie is super fucking high femme all the time, and if I'm not in drag, like I have no makeup on and I look a mess and I'm wearing button-up shirts, and like it's kind of that duality of my gender, I guess.
Right. And that was actually part of my next question was, how is Bonnie different from you in real life? Does the personality change also?
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, a lot of what Bonnie feels like to me is like when I did theater, it's like kind of acting a character. I mean, obviously it's different because it's me, but there's this mentality of like, okay, I got to go into Bonnie mode, and we're going to be high energy, and we're not going to be afraid to talk to people like I usually am. And it's kind of just like putting on like a showman type vibe. But most of the time, if I'm at home or not performing, I'm just chilling and smoking weed and watching Netflix, and I'm not super feminine most of the time, I don't think. Or by standard definition, what all of that means. Like, let me just put that disclaimer out there that there's nothing inherently either way. But yeah, Bonnie's kind of this expression of femininity and pretty stuff, but it's also like, I'm still not a girl, so what's she gonna do about it?
And you know, and I love that. You know, one thing why I do drag is I've been told pretty much my whole life that, you know, I was a country boy, so I was told you need to be masculine. If you want to be successful, you need to get a wife and have children. And none of that, I mean, none of that appealed to me. And I remember very young being attracted to, again, bright colors and dolls and clothing, and it wasn't acceptable to be like that. But when I actually started embracing those things and bringing that into like my art and creating drag, that's actually when I found true happiness and became peace with myself.
Yeah, I relate to that a lot because before I started doing drag, I still identified as a woman, and I did, you know, for a whole entire year after doing it. And the more I kind of spent time doing this and having this outlet, the more I realized that like what I'm trying to do in my day to day as who I truly am isn't all of this.
Right.
And so having that escape of like, okay, this is something that I love, and it's letting me express myself in this way that feels great and I enjoy doing it, helped me kind of understand like, oh, this part of you is a little bit different. And I feel like I've just grown a lot from doing this and learning a ton about myself and having, again, like the freedom to have this expression. Because growing up, there was definitely this expectation of like, you have to be subdued and quiet and you can't be over the top and you can't go out looking like a slut and all of this. And it's like, now that I get to do that, I kind of feel enough like myself to be able to look inwards and get to know me, because I know I have this outlet for anything else I want to try out.
No, and I love that. Now, since you have found drag, I've personally found out that, once you start drag, it's like the worst drug you can start. It consumes your life and it can be so addicting. Now, has drag in a year, not even 2 years, consumed your life yet?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah, that's not a question. It literally like took over the entire half of my living room for about a year and a half. And just like with the help of Uranus, deep cleaned that and organized it. So now it's like put away. But yeah, I mean, I work a 40-hour-a-week day job. And then Thursday through Saturday, I'm doing drag or going to events to support friends. And it's a lot of, spending time getting ready for that, making mixes, planning outfits, and then like the hours of getting ready. So it definitely has consumed my life. It's become my priority, but don't tell my bosses. But it's also like, I wouldn't let anything consume my life like this if it didn't bring me more joy to be exhausted and overworked and feeling like roadkill going to work the next day than it did to be well rested,
No, and I understand it. So one thing that I like to call my drag is my armor. Do you feel like drag can be very armorish for you and kind of make you feel strong and powerful and feel like it's a little harder for people to bring you down?
Kind of. I think mine is more of like a morph suit. Like, I don't know if it makes me feel more protected, because I feel like, Bonnie or not, things that happen will impact me regardless of if it's drag related or if it's, me related, because I have a hard time separating the two a lot. But I think it's more of this morph suit where I can switch into Bonnie and kind of tap into the stuff that I already know I have access to, but maybe me outside of drag is a little too scared to do it, or a little too like squeamish about it, but Bonnie's just like, no, we're gonna fucking talk about this, we're gonna deal with it. And so I think it's less like putting up a shield for me and more of kind of just like tapping into these other parts of me that maybe I don't feel confident without the added layer of drag.
No, and that totally makes total sense. So let's kind of go and talk about the fashion and the looks that are Bonnie Rose.
Okay.
Tell me a bit about what inspires your fashion.
Whatever my fucking weird mind thinks up. It's a lot of, I mean, again, like I come from a stage background. So when I'm looking at numbers and planning out numbers, I have these really specific, like kind of scenes in my head.
Right.
And so it just kind of morphs to that. But primarily, like, I love blue and pink and white, trans. But I look for these kind of bright, pastel-y, sparkly, fun colors, because it makes me feel kind of like sparkly and fun and like ready to go. So yeah, it's just a lot of those colors that like I think are really pretty, and when I put them on, I'm like, ooh, this is cute. Rather than like a set image, because I feel like my closet is just like a wild mishmash of shit. But it all makes sense up in here,
Well, no, totally. Now, do you make any of your costumes or style any of your own wigs?
No. No, I am not super skilled in either of those departments. Uranus actually does all my wigs. She's super talented and she doesn't like to wear wigs, but she likes to style them. So I get to cash in on that.
Ooh.
And as far as like making costumes, I don't make them myself, but like I do have like a couple pieces like this one where I kind of like designed it and then had someone else make it.
Okay, I totally understand that. Now, I know some of your looks, including the piece that you're wearing today, have social statements. Do you put a lot of thought into the looks that you're going to do, especially if you're going to be on stage, to make sure that look does have a social statement?
Yeah, I mean, I try to. Not all of my drag is specifically like statement-y or political, even though I love doing that. But like this one especially, like I don't have the pants on right now to go with it because I knew I would be shooting myself. But it's like the trans pride flag colors. And I mean, I've done a number before where it was kind of about being a good girl and following all these expectations and keeping your mouth shut and just kind of falling in place. And I had a shirt that said, "Your sexuality does not excuse your misogyny." Because I think that is something that can happen a lot in, gay communities, is kind of this hate for women and queer women. And there's just this like yuckiness about it. And I really hate it. So, but yeah, if I'm going to be doing something, then I want it to read everywhere I can, and I want it to be in your face as much as I can.
No, and that totally makes sense. When I do my looks and my statements, especially mostly in my performances, I want there to be a statement that is said. Now, I recently did a performance at Spectrum that I actually dedicated to Miss Bonnie Rose yourself, and I did the song Pretty Girls. And even though the song was singing about, you don't have to be pretty, you don't have to be perfect, and you can be what you want, fuck your ribbons and your bows. And I went for a very hyper glam look, but it was more of like an ironic fuck you to glam and stuff. And I get it. Sometimes you put a lot of thought into your looks. And one thing I love so much about you is your looks look so well thought out.
Thank you. It's a lot of like, I'm kind of my own worst critic when it comes to everything. So I'll kind of sit there and like nitpick something or like get very specific pieces that I don't have use for ever again. But in the moment, they're exactly what I need. Just because I'm like really obsessive over that, because I want it to be enjoyable for like the audience or for people seeing it. But also, like, I can't get fully into it if the vision is not fully realized, and that's my Virgo moon. But I need it to be all put together before I can function to put it in front of a crowd. So it's a lot of nitpicky, obsessy, but then it happens, and I'm so happy about it.
Well, great. Now, tell me a little bit about your drag mother.
Ah, that bitch. I love her so much. I love her so much. Yeah, Monique's fucking incredible. She has been so important in my life, and in creating this feeling of family, and creating an actual family as well. But she's just super duper kind and loving, and me and Uranus would go to her house and just like watch makeup and old pageant videos and smoke and just like hang out and talk, like not talk shit, but just like talk shit, and I miss that all the time. But she's in Texas and she's doing exactly what she fucking wanted to be doing. I mean, like, besides bars now being shut down and all of us being on hold, but like seeing her out there like accomplishing all this shit that I know we were talking about while smoking dabs like a year or so ago is so exciting and inspirational, and I just fucking love her. And she's gorgeous.
She is a beautiful queen. And if you don't know who we're talking about, her name is Monique LaFay. She was from the Eugene and Portland area, and she did recently move to Texas, but I personally love Monique. When I recently transferred up here to Eugene, she was one of the few people who were very sweet to me, didn't judge me on my appearance or my, the way I acted in drag. She was very welcoming, and she always made me feel good about myself. So I feel like you must be one lucky drag child to have her as your mother.
Yeah, she is so kind. She's so nurturing. She says the things I need to hear in a way that is nice, so it doesn't make me feel like shit. Or she'll like sneakily mention it to Uranus to slip to me sometime. I know that comment about my wigs, Monique. Just so you know, you'll see they're not on my eyebrows anymore. Thank you.
Oh God. Just making sure I'm not doing that, because I was notorious for that also.
But yeah, I think she's fantastic. She's taught me a lot in terms of like, makeup and aesthetics, but also just carrying yourself as a queen and professionalism, as well as, kind of knowing what's important to you and what you need to do to be happy in drag and do what you want to accomplish. And I think all of that wisdom from her really helped me in learning how to produce shows and start putting together Thorny and making it what it is.
No, absolutely. Now, I'm curious because she is such a fantastic performer. She's a high fashion showgirl. How did you and Uranus both become two of the chosen few to become her drag children?
I mean, I can't speak for Uranus, but I know that they met and they just had like a great click and really enjoyed being around each other. And Monique was like, I like you, let me nurture you. And then I was just always there because I don't leave Uranus alone. And Monique was like, I like you too, and you're here all the time, so I'm just gonna make it official, you're a daughter too. And I was like, fucking cool. So I don't know, we just liked each other, and she saw potential in us, and we got along and felt like a family. I mean, there's nothing more to it about like proving yourself or needing to be a certain caliber to get adopted and that kind of stuff. We just liked each other and loved each other and became a family.
And it sounds like that you hung around Uranus long enough that she just picked you. Now, it's making me wish I was that smart. I should have just been hanging out with Uranus this whole time, and I could be a LaFay, goddammit.
There's pros and cons to every situation. So be careful what you wish for.
Well, good. I actually am happy you brought that up, because one of the things I was going to ask you was there any tips or tricks or anything that your mother really instilled in you as your drag mother? I
mean, she taught us a lot in terms of like how to do things, but I think the biggest thing is that she never said, like this is the way to do it. She was more so focused on what do you want to do and how can I help you elevate it to be what it should be and what it can be, its potential. So, and that's what I really loved. That's what I love about Monique, is that it's not this set way of like, okay, you're my child, here's how to do everything, and here's the set of rules of what drag is. It was more so like, here's how to be professional and kind and like, kind of go through the basics of all of that. But what you want to do is what you want to do. And you don't have to sacrifice that to make it better. And there's always ways to make it better.
No, and that's great advice. I mean, there's a lot of older queens that haven't realized that yet. And, I think that knowing that, and you're not even 2 years old, means that you are going to be such a bright, shining star. And, that's one thing I'll say right now before even getting further in our interview is, Bonnie, you are such a beautiful spirit, and you are a bright, shining star. And one day, it may not be yet because RuPaul hasn't jumped on there yet, and we will get in that.
RuPaul!
Well, we'll get into that more, but, I'm confident we're going to see you on TV, we're going to hear you in music, we're going to see you on the hood of a car shaking your ass. So
Thank you.
I
Thank
believe in
you.
you. I do. Now, one thing I would like to know now, are there any other queens or pop icons besides your drag mother who's helped really inspire you?
Oh God, I used to have like a legitimate lineup. As far as like pop culture goes, Shelly from the House Bunny is definitely a major one.
Oh,
Fucking
yes.
love Shelly. Oh God. I'm like trying to think of other things. I've also just been like kind of sipping on this and didn't realize how far down I had gotten. So fair warning. Shelly from the House Bunny is a huge part of the characteristics. A lot of just like Broadway, like the pretty blondes of Broadway, their whole shtick. Growing up, I listened to Maliena and the Diamonds a lot, and I think that specifically, like, I was really into the Electra Heart era, and that was a lot of themes of like taking this femininity and this super hyper femme pop character, but also using it to unpack all of these themes of womanhood and what's expected of people. And so I think a lot of that translated into Bonnie as well. And then as far as like other artists that I look up to, Berlin Hell is an amazing non-binary drag artist and drag queen, and they're super talented. Venus Envy has incredible work ethic for a drag queen, and she's always so polished, and her outfits are like mwah. Kat Sass is fucking gorgeous. So like all of these queens, you know, like I follow them on social media. Oh, Bambi Ballgag is so cute, and I want to live up to those aesthetics. But I follow all these people on social media, and just like kind of seeing them do their thing and existing and just looking so good, it just like it inspires me to be like, okay, yeah, I can fucking do this too. Like all of us are out here doing it, so let's all do it.
Absolutely. Now, I know that you are an amazing performer. I mean, a fucking creative performer. And I know that you put a lot of thought into your performances. Tell me where you get inspired when you are creating these performances.
I mean, a lot of different places. It's a lot of kind of me just sitting there and like listening to things and picking things out that I think are fun. And again, I think not to like keep going back to theater, but I think it's a lot of that where the words of the music were usually so literal. And so when I listen to things, I can pick out a couple things and be like, I can make a whole concept based off of this one sentence, which I have. Which was really dumb, but I thought it was funny. But it's, I don't know, it's a lot of just kind of like listening to things, and I'm such like a funny minded person that I try to find like jokes in stuff and find ways to just like spin it around. And I like to think about what's the event, like is it a high energy dance party? Is it more of like a sit down and drink and be chill event? And just kind of weigh the options of like, what is that crowd gonna want to see?
No, and I totally understand that. No, I also know that you mix a lot of your own music, which means that you spend hours at your computer, you know, listening to the music, trying to get inspired, knowing your pop culture, because you have to know certain movies, what lines are said in movies. What really inspires those mixes that you create?
The dumb shit post corners of my mind. There was one I did, it was one for the UO Drag show a couple months ago where I did kind of like a baseball inspired number, because one line in the song said I would go to bat for you, and I was like, great, it's gonna be a lesbian baseball number. And I had never actually seen A League of Their Own, but I had heard whispers about how it should be gay, and I was like, yeah, women's baseball, that's gay.
I mean, I don't know if it was necessarily gay, because I actually just watched that movie the other day, but it's definitely empowering and very feminism. Now, I think there are some characters that definitely, you know,
the Madonna and Rosie, that's the butch femme couple of the baseball.
Uh,
Um,
and Madonna was so hot
when
in
she talked about her
baseball.
boobs popping out, I was like, please, give me some. Don't be shy.
Well, that's
Um,
one thing I was curious. Does when you're on stage and you're performing, is Bonnie afraid to flirt with the girls?
no, Bonnie has a lot of confidence in that, in just kind of like being flirtatious and being sexual. And again, that's kind of like that morph suit stuff that I was talking about, where me personally, I'm not a super flirtatious, sexually driven, like out there person. I don't like date, I don't hook up. Like I'm pretty not, not that there's anything wrong with that, just me personally, that's not a huge part of my personality. Whereas Bonnie kind of gets to bring this out and have fun with it. So yeah, on stage, great. I am a top. I will flirt with anybody. I can be like a little hoe, but off stage, I am so scared and I get sweaty and I don't know how to handle myself. So,
Well, I think drag always gives us a little extra confidence. For me, I feel like an awkward, nerdy, flabby boy next door when I'm not in drag. And then when I'm in drag, I'm this unstoppable goddess that will flirt with anyone she wants.
yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Thank you. Now, tell me, Miss Bonnie, one of your favorite performances that you have done to date.
Okay. There's like so many categories that I want to name off. I think my number one favorite one was the Corvallis Pride show that I did this last June. And it was my first Pride event that I'd ever done. And when I just started drag, I started in June. So obviously all of these Pride events were happening, but I had one or two gigs. So I knew I wasn't getting booked for a Pride event. But I had planned out that I really wanted to do I See Stars from Mean Girls the Musical. And I just thought it would be a super sweet Pride number. It's all about how, you're all stars regardless of anything. And I had just been like planning and waiting and hoping to have a place to do it. And I got asked to do their Pride show and my family came and it was such an incredible experience. I mean, there was like 10 to 20 people, I believe, in that show. And they were like Corvallis based or Portland based or Salem based. And it was all of these people that I had never met before that I wouldn't otherwise get to see do drag. And it was Pride and it felt so exciting to be there. My family came. And at one point during the number, I like went off stage and kind of did like a high five row through the crowd. And it was just really sweet. And like, I want to cry thinking about it, but it meant a lot to me. And it was one of those moments where I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. And this is what feels good.
Perfect. Now, speaking of performances that make you want to cry,
Mm-hmm.
let's take the opposite route. Let's talk about maybe a performance flop, where maybe your wig fell off, maybe, let's say, a nipple fell out, your costume malfunctioned. Tell me about something where that may have happened.
So, my first show that I ever did, I have a lot of numbers that have flopped, but this is like the most iconic, I guess, but no one was there to see it because no one knew who I was yet, which is great. It was my first show. It was my second number in the show, so that was it. I was going to be done after that one. And I was doing You and I by Lady Gaga.
Oh.
And when I had gotten dressed that day to go to the gig, I didn't realize that you were supposed to have dance tights for drag and not just like shitty nylons. So I was putting my tights on and they ripped really bad. And I was just like, I'd rather have no tights than ripped tights because that's going to look like shit. So I didn't have tights on. And for You and I was wearing like spandex kind of Spanx underwear as the bottom underneath, like over a bodysuit. and they shifted. The shorts kind of shifted themselves during the performance, and there I was in cowfish in front of everybody with half a pussy lip hanging out. And I didn't know. I did not know the entire performance. Like, I went on that ground, like pretended to hump the ground. There was like this couple in the second row that just like progressively looked more and more disgusted. And I was like, what is wrong with you? But someone's grandma gave me like a $5 bill. So I ended up winning. But yeah, as soon as my number ended, I like walked to go backstage, and Uranus runs up to me and is like, you need to fix your shorts. And I watched the video back, and I was like, there it is. Oh. And that's how this started. That's how it all began.
Well, you know, honestly, that's a performance flop. I mean, I was traumatized that my bulge came undone and that you could just see it in one side of the tights. But to actually have your genitalia show on stage, I mean, and now I'm gonna ask you something. With that happening, did it defeat you?
No, I was just pretty embarrassed about it. I refused to watch the video. I still have it. I've half watched it once. But it was more so just like, okay, that was really stupid. Get better tights.
Well, you know, and there's nothing worse that could really happen besides like having your genitalia flop out on stage.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of what I tell myself before every performance. I'm freaking out. I'm like nervous, and I'm like, what if it sucks? And I'm like, what's the worst that's going to happen to you? You know, it's not going to be that terrible. Like, you've had your pussy fall out on stage. You've had a kiddie pool full of dirt break all over you on stage. Like, nothing can go wrong at this point that is not something that you can fix or just be like, I had a shitty number. Cool.
No, I totally understand. Now, speaking of things that go wrong, I know that you have a relationship, let's say a friendship, with a queen that we call Uranus the Fool. Tell me a little bit how your relationship with them has affected your drag.
Yeah, I mean, I've known her since before we did drag. We kind of got into this together. And I don't know, it's made it a lot easier. I think for me, I'm like such an anxious person, and I kind of like always need someone there to be like, am I okay? Can I do this? And I'm just like, yeah, shut up, you're fine. So, you know, she is always there when I'm having like a breakdown. And it's like, I could do this alone. I can. I don't want to. That's my best friend. And so it's just encouraging to have someone that's kind of like always on your side, talking you through things, and we get to collaborate a lot and, you know, work each other through like, what do you think about this for a number idea? What about this for a show? So yeah, it's just that kind of like mutual friendship, but we also get to do this thing that we love together.
Now, you mentioned you live together. Now, do you guys, either of you, draw a line in the apartment saying, keep your hands out of my drag, God damn it? Or are you just a free-for-all, you can wear this, we're just going to share?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that I have in my closet that I wouldn't let her wear. It's pretty, like, the thing is, though, is that a lot of our stuff doesn't cross over into each other's aesthetics. So it doesn't become a huge conversation. But yeah, we share stuff pretty frequently. We're just basically pretty open with each other. There's not a ton of things off limits.
Well, is it different living with another performer? Maybe does jealousy or any behind the scenes drama ever pop up living with another queen?
I mean, she just moved in like last week.
I mean, temporarily, that's enough, right?
Temporarily for social distancing. But we are going to move in together in the future. So, I mean, like, I think it's human nature anytime you are around someone and you're like, oh, I really like this thing that they do. I wish I could do that. Oh, why can't I? That sucks. But it never comes out as like jealousy or fights or anything like that. Sometimes we get pissed at each other. That happens. We're people. But we're pretty good at just talking it out once we cool down. But I don't think it's ever been like, I hate you because I think you're better than me. It's just been a kind of like, fuck you, I'm gonna try to do that too next time.
No, I love that. You know, my best friend's also a drag queen, and there's always that kind of, I don't want to say competition, but there's always that kind of silent judging each other where we're not being mean, but it's like, ooh, that was a choice. You wore that last night. And I get that a lot from my best friend. In fact, I got that today when I wore this. They looked at this like, well, choices. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah, see, we do that and we listen to each other and we'll be like, I don't think that's a great idea. And then we'll go back and forth for it for a while. And then we'll be like, yeah, no, let's switch that up. So yeah, it's never like a that's not good because you want it to be malicious. It's just more like, maybe not your best choice. Do this instead.
Yeah, you're just trying to uplift each other. Now,
Yeah.
Barney, you are a lesbian drag queen, correct?
I am.
Now,
I had no clue I was a lesbian.
I thought that night in bed that we had together would have said it all.
Wow. This is news.
Because I'm a woman. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a dyke. Yes.
Well, you actually have, the reason I bring it up is because you have a regular drag show called Thorny that is aimed for lesbians, trans people, non-binary. Tell me a little bit about the event that is Thorny.
Yeah, so I originally started Thorny and it was more just like a regular show. I wanted it to feel more like a theater cabaret experience. So it wasn't initially this like lesbian centered party. And then I did a specific dyke night event where like it was completely themed for lesbians, and seeing the crowd that brought out was really exciting. I mean, it was just this whole span of like people like old butches and femmes and like these younger people, and they were all like talking and hanging out. And it kind of made me realize like, oh, we need a place for this in Eugene. Like we need some lesbian centered events. And I just had like the best time having this like dyke centered party and having it be such a specific space, because, you know, in queer spaces, yes, queer women are allowed, you know, lesbians are allowed, but a lot of places there's kind of this, and luckily Spectrum isn't like this at all, but there are some places where there's this feeling of it's like, you can be here, but it's not centered for you. It's centered for cis gay men. And I thought it would just be nice to have a party that's specific for lesbians, where they don't have to be worried if straight men are going to be there, like asking if they're sisters, or have to worry about feeling unwelcome at a queer party.
Right.
And yeah, I wanted a night for that, because I wish that there had been a night for that when I was 21 and not realizing all of this stuff. And there's such a lack of lesbian bars in the US anymore, and lesbian centered events are usually only, you know, happening in big hubs like LA and New York and these big cities. So I just wanted to use Thorny as a platform of a safe space, to have that type of event for women loving women and lesbians and femmes and all of this, and to also feature really amazing performers and really great DJs. And it's my favorite event by far, not just because it's like my show, but I feel like the crowd that comes out to Thorny is really special and it's really sweet. And I've had people come up to me and like say that they met like their partner at a show. And we do this thing every show after intermission where we bring people up on stage who are celebrating something. And it's not, just the typical like birthday, bachelorette, like that kind of stuff. It's stuff like, if you got out of bed today. We've had people that have just come out and this is their first queer event. We've had someone who is celebrating her ex-husband being in jail. I mean, like, that's what I really want it to be, is just this like happy, safe place. And I'm so happy it's turned into this for such like, not even just for lesbians anymore, but for a huge crowd of people.
Now, do you think it's important for more events like Thorny to become mainstream and to be seen in more cities and towns across the US?
Yeah, I always think more lesbian parties are awesome. I mean, in general, there just aren't a ton. And kind of what I want to do with Thorny in the long term is maybe get it to a place where I can tour it to other cities like Portland and Seattle, and use it in those cities as a platform to have performers that are outside of the norms of cis male drag that don't necessarily always get platforms like that, because I know in bigger cities it's a lot harder. So yeah, that's kind of what I want Thorny to do, is just kind of like go on a tour and have all these lesbians and these drag queens hang out and have a good time.
I love that. To me, the queer community should be a family, and we should all get along and accept each other. And I get it. There's a lot of this, but to me, there shouldn't be gay men are more important than lesbians, or gay men are more important than trans people. No, people, we are family. And this is, especially right now, 2020, where we have a monster in the White House. We're dealing with an epidemic where half the world is dying because of this virus. This is times like this where we need to realize these people, even though they may not be the same gender, same identity as you, they're important, and they're the closest family that understands what you're going through than anyone else out there. So you should treat them with nothing but love and respect. I mean that, people.
Yeah. And I think there has been kind of like a nice upswing recently, in the queer community, where there is this more understanding of all of us needing to come together. And I think specifically Eugene is a really beautiful community, because I personally haven't felt heavily that there is a huge separation based on like gay men versus lesbians versus like the trans community. Like there is this nice like interweave where we're all kind of like, we're all here and we're all getting through it and we're all artists, and there's no like walls up of like keeping people in these separate groups and these separate events. Like there's a good swirl of everything. And so I think Eugene is really special in that way. And I think through all of this shit happening right now, even in the last couple weeks, I've seen the community come together and, find ways to support each other and find ways to hang out and check in with each other. And I think that that's really cool and special.
No, absolutely. I totally agree. Now, Bonnie, something you've mentioned at your show, Thorny, and I would like you to kind of describe what this term is and why it's important not to have this kind of behavior at shows. Can you explain to me what TERF is?
Yeah, so TERF is an acronym for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. It is a person that primarily is cis women who are out here being transphobic and trying to section off feminism and women's rights to just assigned genders at birth, and they're really shitty. And there happens to be kind of a lot of crossover in some places where there's a lot of TERFs and transphobia in lesbian communities. And again, I love Eugene. This is not me trying to talk shit about any person in Eugene, except if you're a TERF, then I am talking shit about you and go away. But there tends to be some overlap sometimes. And so when making a lesbian party, I want to be really centered on the fact that that's not fucking acceptable, because TERFs are gross, and we don't want them anywhere near us. So I make it super clear on all of my advertising. I put it on all my posters and in event descriptions, and we start off the night with everyone chanting "fuck TERFs." because like you just suck, and trans women are women, and there's not much more you can explain to them besides the fact that they are wrong. And a lot of the times they're really stubborn-headed about it, and they don't want to listen to reason. So we just give them a big fuck you, and they see their way out.
You know, I love that. You know, when there are haters in a room, you just have to glow even brighter and show them that their behavior is not going to be welcome or tolerated in that scene. So if they don't like it, they can just get the fuck out of our area, because we're just caring about love and supporting each other, correct?
Yes, yeah, and it's super important too to, if you are throwing these events, to be super outspoken about that kind of stuff if you know that that is a possibility, because you need to, I mean, like, I'm protecting this community more than I care about hurting a possible attender's feelings if they are a TERF and feeling like shit. So I want to make it super clear before they even step foot that they're not going to be welcome and it's not something for them.
No, absolutely. And I think that is so respectable to have that even on your posters and in the description of your shows. And it just discourages those haters from even coming. So I think that is a beautiful thing that you're doing. Now, Miss Bonnie, I do want to talk a little bit about being a fab queen or even a non-binary queen. Do you think it can be a little bit more of a struggle as an AFAB queen, a trans performer, or non-binary performer to get gigs or to be able to perform in the drag scene?
In Eugene, no. It's been very understanding, and there hasn't been kind of this separation feeling of being like, you can't do this because of, you know, the fact that you were assigned female at birth. I think in the general scope of drag, it is a lot, it's a lot different. Even how I've seen people interact with me at shows, they kind of like take a step back and they look at me for a second and they're like, are you? Or they'll just like outright ask if I am a girl or a boy, or they'll, you know, try and find things to pinpoint to prove. Where how I come from it is like, did you enjoy the performance? Yes, then that's all that really matters. So there's like those small things like that where it's just like, I feel like I'm put in kind of a different category in people's minds, where it's like, yeah, Bonnie's cool, but Bonnie's different. Bonnie's not like a drag queen. And so there's this weird feeling of disconnect there, where I don't feel like I get taken seriously all the time. And then just in general, in the global scope of things, not everyone's at the same level at understanding that drag is an art for anybody. And so it's a lot harder to get the same platforms as other drag queens. I mean, RuPaul obviously is one of those obstacles, and kind of sending this message about what drag is. But I have also seen a lot of other platforms like Can't Wanna Kiki and Dragula and the Drag Queen of the Year that Alaska 5000 hosted, and all of these kind of, you know, big shows that happen in bigger cities and are now virtually streaming online are starting to feature AFAB, non-binary, trans queens and kings, and things if you're not a queen or king. And so I think that's really exciting. I think we are starting to kind of get over the like hump of the hill of kind of getting people to understand that. So it's really exciting. It's really cool to watch and be a part of. And I'm very grateful to have the opportunities I've had and had such an understanding community around me.
I love that. Now, you've mentioned that Eugene here, we are pretty much family. We love each other. We don't question that type of thing. Now, let's take this on a larger platform, such as social media. How do people treat you as Bonnie Rose on social media? Do they get that you're a drag queen? Because I feel like I get this a lot online when people see me dressed up, especially in sexy outfits, where men think it's for their pleasure and it's not for our art. And I feel like as an AFAB queen, it would be even harder, because I feel like they would think that you're like a stripper or something. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first started Bonnie's Instagram, there was a lot more of like those men being like, oh, you're so sexy. But I think I've gotten aggressively more lesbian, so it kind of scares them a little bit.
Good.
And I think social media, I mean, I'm not great at remembering to post on social media and use it all the time, but I've met a lot of like amazing drag queens through social media that are super kind and understanding. And I think it's really interesting seeing that difference of, yeah, men are kind of always going to be gross in the comments, but I haven't actually had anyone try and tell me like I'm not a drag queen or anything like that.
Good.
Luckily yet. But I think there's obviously going to be shitty people no matter what you do, but I think there's also this really great community that you can find yourself in that is validating and uplifting.
And I love that. Now, speaking of uplifting your community and all the performers in it, tell us to other communities that may not be such like Eugene, why it is important to support your local AFAB, trans, non-binary performers, or those in between who are wanting to get on stage and perform.
That's a hard one. I mean, it just comes down to like a basic understanding of like, we're all here and we're artists and we're just trying to put art into the world and, you know, entertain people and have fun and have love for ourselves and love for others and for our community and support each other. So coming down to this like idea of a category you put someone in as being different, it doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand how it makes sense to other people. Right. Because I feel like this idea of like, you have to be a cis gay male to be a drag queen is really reducing the art of what drag is into being like, it's just the illusion, which I think that's not fair to drag in general. I think it's not fair to the drag queens that are saying that. Because if that's all you want to do, then that's kind of boring, right? So like, why not just have more variety and more people and more ideas and make it this really cool, gorgeous community instead of just like trying to keep these old school ideals, which have their purpose and they're very important. And we're not trying to erase those. We're trying to expand and grow and keep the community alive.
We can still keep traditions and things that came before us, but we can still include everyone. Now, to me, I'm going to kind of hit on something you said is one thing that makes it so important to include all these people is there are so many talented and creative people out there. I don't want to rob our audiences or people who come to our shows from that talent just because we think they shouldn't be on stage because they're trans, or we think they shouldn't be on stage because they were born a female, because that's fucking stupid. Their talent, and talent belongs on stage, and that's flat point.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to reduce anyone down to say like, fuck whatever you're doing in your art, here's your, you know, whatever, here's your identifiers and who you are. That overrides everything else. And I can never get into that mindset. And I'm lucky that Eugene is so great, but there definitely are still people who think and act that way. And it's disappointing. And I hope that with more time, you know, people can kind of learn and we can get to a better place with each other.
No, I totally understand. And, you know, I think the more the world sees how amazing that all these performers are, such as yourself, and what you have to offer, not just the stage, but the world of drag in general, you know, I think there's going to be less resistance. Now, one thing I really want to see is I want to see AFAB, non-binary, trans people in social media and reality television competitions that feature drag. Now, I just heard recently a rumor on social media that Michelle Visage is thinking of starting a drag race for AFAB, trans, non-binary, and drag king performers. My question for you is, do you think that's a great idea, or do you think that, I don't even want to say do you think, do you feel that this kind of show doesn't need to be separate, that we should just include those performers in a competition such as Drag Race and not try to separate them?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I hope that what's happening is done with good intentions and not just trying to appease and make amends for things that RuPaul has said, also make it a money grab by creating it to another show.
Right.
Of course, that's where my mind goes. I hope it's not that, but I do believe that having this separate platform is, again, just encouraging this mindset that these are separate things, when it's all like everyone is in the same pot, everyone is doing the same thing. And it just feels really, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, this idea of it being like AFAB people and trans women. And I heard that it wouldn't be kings. I could be wrong on that, but I thought it was all queens. But I hate the separation. I so deeply hate the separation, specifically for trans women. Like, they fucking invented drag. They should be on Drag Race, not their own separate show.
No, I agree. Now, I completely support everything you just said, and the thing that
drink more after that one.
No, and the reason it pisses me off, honestly, Bonnie, is it's called Drag Race. It's not called Drag Queen Race. So to me, anyone that does drag, kings, trans performers, non-binary, it's all drag, and it deserves to be in the same competition. I think, to me, this is my opinion and my personal opinion, separating it and saying, I'm going to create this separate show. Yes, I think Michelle Visage has some great intentions herself, but I don't think we should be separating them. I think it should just be included in one competition, and RuPaul should just pull her fucking old head out of her old ass.
Yes, yeah, I would agree with that. Appreciate what RuPaul's done in the past. That's awesome. But kind of being really shitty now. And it's sad because a lot of people, their only idea of drag is Drag Race. And there's a lot of power in having the ability to define what drag is. And it does kind of just feel like this cop-out of like, oh, sorry I said you couldn't compete, but now you can do this instead. So do that. Which isn't what it should be.
Well, Bonnie, you know, we both feel the same way about Drag Race. Would you ever consider applying for a competition such as Camp Wanakiki or maybe Dragula?
I'm not a spooky enough bitch for Dragula, and I get scared watching the challenges, so I don't think I could do that, but I do really want to audition for Camp Wanakiki in the future. I think just where I'm at right now, I'm not at a point where I think I would be ready to go into a competition that intense. But yeah, I do love both of those shows. I think they're great platforms, and I'm so excited that they're much more inclusive. So yeah, maybe in the future.
I love it. You know, Dragula, we actually had a drag king win the third season, which I thought was very important for our whole society. And then one thing that I really appreciated last season of season 2 of Camp Wanakiki is we had a trans male drag queen, which I think says so much, that you can just be yourself and go on there. And I will say they were my favorite, one of my favorites, I should say, in that whole season. And I enjoyed being able to work with them in my drag career because they're fucking talented.
Yeah,
so,
and I think that's what a lot of people are seeing is these shows like Camp Wanakiki and Dragula that are open to more people are showcasing a lot more interesting talent.
Now, I know a lot of people can sometimes, let's just say, maybe think of it as a disadvantage that you were born a female and you do drag, or maybe think it's easy. Now, to me, I feel like you may have a better understanding of what drag is also. So do you feel like being an AFAB queen can sometimes give you an advantage in drag?
I mean, in terms of maybe just having like an easier, you know, more, not easier, but a more standard, like feminine canvas to start with, you know, I could see an argument for that. But I, again, I don't think of drag as being like like a female impersonation. And I think drag is kind of what you make it, and it's your own art. So I've heard and I can understand those arguments of like, oh, well, you have boobs and you have hips and you don't need to pad and you already have a soft face. And it's like, do I? Because I look like shit without all of this. Again, I don't know. I just consider all of these arguments that people have just to have, rather than, you know, having an actual reasoning and an actual understanding behind them, to just be ridiculous and so close-minded. And I understand where people are coming from and having those, but I think we're not gonna progress and keep going as a queer community if we don't, you know, all catch up to the same understanding.
I think that is so beautifully said, Bonnie. And I really, you know, one reason I felt like it was so important to have you on the show, and I felt like pushing you ahead above some of the other people who asked, because I feel like people really need to hear the struggle, what you go through, because, you know, I don't think all the queens out there make it easy for you. And if more of us behaved and just saw your talent and didn't care about what's in your pants or in your shirt and just saw this beautiful person who you are and what you do on stage, I think there'd be less drama in the world and less drama in our own community. So I love you, and I appreciate you so fucking much.
I love you. I love you. I mean, yeah, I definitely think that this is, you know, people getting to the same page of understanding what drag is and that it's not one specific thing. I definitely have a lot of privilege from doing drag in Eugene, that I haven't had any people directly say anything or come at me a certain way with it. But I do know that this is a real struggle for a bunch of other people. So as much as I can't speak on it and how intense and impacting it is, you know, from my experience, I do know that this is something that's a real struggle. So if you're watching and you're not in Eugene, then you should reach out to members of your community and give them opportunities and listen to them. And I don't know, just be decent. But thank you, Eugene, for being super kind to me.
No,
and other people as well. I don't know. I'm already tipsy, so I feel like I'm misspeaking a lot.
No problem, baby. We're actually almost done with the interview. I have a few more questions, and then we're going to go into a few games that I've created for you. Now, these next two questions might be some of the hardest that we've actually talked through the whole interview.
Okay.
And I will bring up that both you and Uranus have been humongous cheerleaders for me as a drag queen in the Eugene drag scene. Now, I recently transplanted in Eugene a year and a half ago, and neither of you hesitated when I walked in the scene. And I'm a loudmouth, crazy-looking drag queen. Now, what makes people such as yourselves, who are already established drag performers, be so welcoming of an old queen like me?
Because why wouldn't we be? You know, it just comes down to like, why would you be mean to someone? Like, there's no reason to be. And I think what I think is super important is, in drag, there's a lot of talk and there's a lot of things that happen and there's a lot of big personalities and a lot of conflicts. But I think every relationship you have with a person is individual. And, you know, obviously I had met you years and years ago, so I had been following you and a big fan for a while before you moved back. But, you know, even if before you walked in the room when I had been doing Drag in Town, someone was like, Maliena Bitchcock fucking sucks, she's terrible, like, that wouldn't impact my first meeting of you, because I don't know you yet and I don't know a relationship yet. So I think it just comes down to like basically like be kind to people, but at the end of the day, you're also still a person. So if you have conflicts with someone, if you have issue, like take that out between you personally, and it doesn't have to be huge. But I think you should just be kind to everyone until there's something that comes up that causes you to have boundary issues or anything like that, and then you have to handle it personally.
I think that is brilliantly said. Now, the one thing I really now you said you met me how many years ago? Like
2016, so almost 4 years ago.
What was your first impression when you saw me?
Okay, let me think this through. I don't want to misspeak.
You can sound crazy.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Well, it was my first Pride that I'd ever gone to.
Oh,
yeah, I was 19. It was my first Pride. And I loved drag. I had been like watching shows and seeing stuff. So I was already super excited to be there. And then after your performance, I think I asked for a picture with you. Because I was like, yeah, drag queens, I want to take pictures. And you were just super nice. And there wasn't this air of like, I'm a drag queen. Yeah, I'll take a picture with you. Okay, bye. Like you like talked to me and my friend, and you told us about a show you were doing down in like Grants Pass, I think, or like Ashland that was all ages. And I did not drive my ass down there, but like you were just super nice. And I don't know, I just thought you were really cool. So I just kept following you for a while after that, and then you moved back, and I was like, hey, remember me?
Oh, I love that so much. And one thing, you guys really are cheerleaders for me. And when days where I'm doubting myself or I'm feeling like maybe I don't belong in the drag scene, you don't know it most of the time, but then you guys will like walk past me on the street and I'll hear like, clownfish, bitch cock, and I look over and there's you and Uranus just smiling and waving at me, and it always makes me feel validated and loved, and it makes me feel so grateful for the two of you and our community, because again, this is how you should be treating people in the community, is with love and compassion. And until they give you a reason to not trust them, you should just welcome them with open arms. So I fucking adore you. Now, mentioning that little clownfish, bitch,
my favorite song. My favorite
you guys have an obsession with my song Clownfish. Tell me about that.
I just love it so much. It's just so fun.
Oh my God,
there's so many funny lines in it, and like it's just like so absolutely ridiculous and off the wall, and it's so fun. I like Uranus and I sing it all the time.
I think that is fantastic. I was walking, I think, to Spectrum one time from the parking garage, and you guys were driving by, and you had it playing in your car, and I'm like, is that my song? And it was getting louder and louder as you guys were driving past, and I just look over, and I'm like, oh my God!
It's a bop. It's a good song. I don't know. I love it so much.
I appreciate that, guys. I had the beautiful Slut-Tasia work with me with that song, and I will say, like I said in the interview with Slut-Tasia, it haunts me in such a wonderful way, because it is a fucking silly song. It sings about sex, it sings about being different, it sings about just being a slut, and those are all things that are very much me.
Yeah, very true. Very, life, art imitates life in this case.
So speaking of art, tell everyone about your experience here on Bitch Talk with Bitchcock. You now have survived. Did you have fun?
Oh my God, it was a hoot. I definitely drank more of my drink while being interviewed than I meant to. So I might have to refill before the game, but it was lovely.
Well, speaking of game, I hope get that drink ready, girl, because we're about to play a fabulous game called Truth or Drink.
Okay, I'm gonna get more alcohol so I'm prepared. Just put like elevator music on.
Got a big dick of money, I'ma let you in. I'm a star, bitch. Know my name, bitch. Dicks, cock, fucking dicks, in the world, bitch. You said elevator music, that's the only song I know. Oh my God, guys. Well, while she's doing that, I'm going to quickly announce that we have a fantastic guest on April 1st, and it's no joking matter. It is the one and only Rocks by Lilac herself, Lilac. Lilac, all the way from Salem, Oregon, will be joining Bitch Talk with Bitchcock, talking about her wig empire and her life as a drag queen. So definitely tune in for that episode because we are going to share so much fucking tea, and hopefully I'll wear a brand new Locks by Lilac because, bitch, I have an obsession. You got your alcohol yet?
Almost. I broke my cup, so I had to transfer. So now we have a different pink cup.
Ooh, it looks
I'm not allowed to smoke weed on the air, am I?
But you're not allowed to what? Smoke weed? Not yet, but we're almost done.
Great. I need to get another drink.
Oh my God, girl, we're almost done. Stop it. Okay, are you ready for some booze?
Let's go.
So I have to put a little bit of a disclosure out there, Bonnie. Some of these questions will not be the most PC. Some of them are going to be questions to kind of make you sweat a little bit. Now, the point of this is, if you don't want to answer the question, all you have to do is
take a drink.
Take a drink, honey. So we are going to start with the most important question. Besides you, who do you think is the most talented drag performer in Eugene?
Uranus.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. I mean, I get to see all of the behind the scenes of everything that she puts into what she does.
Really?
I mildly forgot I was being interviewed by Eugene Drag. I was like, why are you so surprised by my answer? Obviously, it's my best friend. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm going to say her. I think, and like, besides just the fact, like, yo, it's my best friend, I do think she's extremely talented and just so great at what she does. So yeah, my vote's Uranus, and that's not just because she can see and hear me right now.
Oh no, I think that's fantastic. Now, Uranus is probably about to shit herself a bit because the next few questions are a little, don't hit me next time you see me. I love you so much.
Oh no.
So, Bonnie, are you ready to get that drink? Because I don't think you're going to want to answer this question.
Okay.
Bonnie, when's the last time you had sex?
Are
you going to answer?
Yeah, I think it was about April of 2014.
Wait.
I have no shame in this.
Wait, okay. So 6 years ago.
Yeah, I've only ever dated, hooked up with, like, anything at all besides, like, kiss and make out with my high school boyfriend. So, yeah, no.
Does this include sex with yourself? Because that would be scary.
No.
Okay.
I just ordered a new vibrator.
Oh.
Gonna be great.
Oh, I can't wait. Well, I bet you can't wait.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, well, I was surprised you answered that one. That was a curveball. Speaking of curveball, here's another one. Oh, she's taking a drink even though she doesn't need to.
I just like alcohol, Maliena. The bars are closed. I don't have an excuse to get in drag and drink anymore. Like, I need some sense of normalcy.
Okay, well, let's see if this next question will get you to take a drink.
Okay.
And I swear, if you say my name on this next question, I will come to your house after this interview.
Oh, no.
Okay. Who is the most busted drag queen in Eugene? Oh, she's gonna take a drink. Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna get in trouble at all. Because even if I explain myself away, like, I'm not gonna call someone busted. It doesn't mean I don't think it, but I'm not gonna say it.
Oh, I love it, girl. You know, that was just a test of your humanity, and you totally passed. I love you so much for that. Now, speaking of test of humanity, for question 4, who do you think is prettier, you or Uranus the Fool?
Probably Uranus. I think we're both equally pretty. I think we do very different makeup. But I think if you're thinking in sense of just like, oh, she's fucking pretty, that's Uranus.
Okay, now we're going to give a second part to that question. Who is prettier, you or Uranus the Fool just coming out of the shower?
Me. 100%
Okay.
me. Absolutely.
I won't make fun of her too much because she's on the camera and she won't come and kill me. But I did see her in the pre-interview and I was just like, who is that next to you? And you're like, it's Uranus. I'm like, oh, I've never seen them out of makeup.
And that had been like 10, 15 minutes after the shower. She had put on skincare and gotten dressed and put her hair up. If we're talking about like, as soon as you step out of the shower, who's prettier? Me.
Oh, I love that confidence so much, bitch. Yeah, so we have one last question for truth or drink, and then we're going to move into our game and then say our goodbyes.
Okay.
Is there anyone, get that drink ready. Is there anyone, I'm so sorry, Bonnie. Is there anyone you won't work with?
I mean, I'll drink because I'm not going to answer it for the audience, but I think whoever is listening to this will know who they are.
That is the most classiest way you can answer that. And again, that question.
Let me put the disclaimer. I will work with anybody. I will do my job and be civil, but there's a level of we're coworkers versus we're friends.
I think that's beautifully said.
And that's the difference there. It's not like I'm going to say, no, I will not do this job if she's there. It's that I'll say, we're coworkers and we're just going to exist in the same space, but I don't have to kiki with you.
I mean, that's fair. That's what you do when I'm at a show.
Yeah, exactly. I ignore you. I do not speak to you or ask you to perform at my shows.
Bitch, you're a liar.
Never.
I gave birth to a baby on stage at your show.
You did poop out a baby. That's the magic of Thorny. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. Maliena shitting a baby on stage.
I fucking love this. Okay, so we survived truth or drink, but I have a second game.
So easy. Oh my god.
Well, honey, I know all about easy.
Ooh, clearly.
So I created a second game just for you, Bonnie, called Inspire or Infires. So what this means is I'm going to list some pop icons and you're going to tell me if they inspire you or put you in fires, meaning piss you off. Okay.
That's easy. I'm a fire sign. It's black and white for me, so it works.
Yes. Okay. Well, perfect. We are going to start with the dark goddess of the 80s, Elvira.
Yeah, inspired. She's incredible. She's gorgeous. She has so much personality. I think she's incredible. She doesn't piss me off in the slightest.
And I would say that she was one of the first mainstream like AFAB queens, correct?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I think, definitely very drag, very inspirational for a bunch of people. I think she's fantastic.
Fabulous. So we're going to go to number 2. This is a fictional character, but she's from one of my favorite movies, Mean Girls. The one and only Regina George.
I love her. I would like to add the addendum that I love the musical version of Regina George from Mean Girls, the musical, more than the movie. I think they do a really good job of humanizing her and taking away this element of just like, oh, she's a popular cunt, and kind of explaining like, this is what she's got going on, and like, she was a shitty person. She learned from being a shitty person. but also, I mean, like, Regina George is really hot. So, like, I can't, like, she's hot. And, like, I'm sorry. I think it's so, maybe she didn't have the best intentions in doing it, but taking a whole burn book and throwing everything in the air is so dramatic and so badass that, like, yes. I mean, clearly she inspires me because I made a burn book and did that. So.
No, please raise your hand if you've ever been personally victimized by Bonnie Rose.
I have a sign that I made for my burn book that Uranus is going to fetch for me real quick.
Ooh.
It's one of the pages I saved. Speaking of my drag mother.
I was personally victimized by Monique LeFay. Ah!
So I just keep that close. It's hanging on my drag wall.
I think that's gorgeous. So let's go to number 3. We mentioned them earlier in the interview, and they won season 3 of Dragula, the one and only Landon Cider.
Of course, inspires. How am I supposed to do drag if my pussy isn't wet? Thank you, Landon.
You know, you're not the only one. When Landon,
oh my God, Landon's incredible. Like, besides the fact that, like, I just always will be in love with drag kings forever. Landon is a fucking artist. Like, the work that he does, the looks that he puts together, I mean, like, it's beyond, like, hugely inspirational. So incredible to see a drag king win such a large platform of a show. And super exciting. And I mean, like, from what I've seen, he's also just so fucking kind to people on social media and just seems like an overall, like, great person and performer, which I always will look up to.
Absolutely. And I think that's always really important, especially for drag performers, just to be humble and kind. And that's something I see 100% from Landon. And, you know, honestly, it was so refreshing to watch season 3 of Dragula with them and watch them just be at such a high drag standard. And, you know, to me, from the very beginning, Landon won the season. From the very beginning. And I am so happy they won. So we're going to go from Dragula kind of back to Drag Race. We mentioned kind of some of your opinions before of this person. For number 4, do you inspire or get in fire over RuPaul?
Fuck RuPaul. Fuck
okay.
RuPaul. That's all I have to say.
So you get in fire.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's so much to say on that, and I feel like I said a lot because I really went off, but yeah, no, wish I could be inspired, but it's all kind of just tainted now, which is a bummer.
You know what? I hear you, and it is really sad that they sadly dug that grave that they're now laying in, that, you know, they lost so many respect from people by making those statements and excluding so many talented people from their show. So I hear you.
Yeah, bitch. Anyone else fracking on his property? Like, dude, like, you thought he couldn't get shittier, and then he did.
Oh my God! You know what? We'll talk about that after the interview because my God, okay, so let's go to number 5, Lady Gaga.
Love, super inspiring. I'm so excited about this new era that she's coming out with all this, like, neon chromatica pop up tempo. I mean, I was in, like, you're gonna say I'm making you feel old. I was in middle school when Gaga first started coming up, so, like, that was formative years. Like, that defined my personality, and I can't say that, like, Gaga doesn't inspire me at all, because she does so deeply.
She is so fantastic. I love Lady Gaga. And the one thing I love about her right now is she's kind of going back to her, like, monster roots. And that's when I loved her most, when she was crazy and unpredictable, coming to shows in, like, a meat dress. And I kind of missed that side of her.
Yeah, and she's bringing back up-tempo pop, which is fantastic. I love these new girls, but I am tired of, like, sad pop. I want to dance again. So thank you, Gaga.
Absolutely. So for number 6, she was the queen from Queens, And she's known for her very annoying voice. Tell me what you think of Fran Drescher.
I mean, being a queen that's also known for my very annoying voice, obviously she inspires me. I mean, yeah, I just would always watch The Nanny growing up, and like her fashion, her personality, like she's iconic. I mean, it's Fran.
Absolutely. I fucking love Fran Drescher, and I used to watch The Nanny when it was the original episodes. I never had to watch reruns. So yes, I'm telling my age right now, but I adore Fran Drescher. She is one of the reasons Maliena is so flamboyant.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
So I adore her. So far we have 4 Inspires and 1 Infire. I think the next one's also going to be an Infire, but I'll let you make that decision. The President of the United States.
I don't know her. I do not know her. She fucking sucks. I want to light her ablaze. I'm not gonna get like super deep into all the reasons Trump sucks, but Trump fucking sucks, and I hate him.
All I'm gonna say to that is remember that voting season is coming up.
Yes.
And remember to vote, everyone, because if we don't want that monster in the White House anymore, it's your civic duty to get out there and make your voice heard.
And I would just like to sing a little ditty. If you're on TikTok, you might recognize this one. Please don't make me vote for Joe Biden. Please don't make me vote for Joe Biden. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I fucking love you. So we're almost done with the game, and then we're going to say our little goodbyes. So we have 3 more people that I'm going to get your opinion on. I'm going to say these are more people you should be familiar with in like the drag scene on social media, maybe on Facebook or Instagram. So we're going to start with the first number 8, Creme Fatale.
Oh, super inspired. She was one of the first queens I saw on social media that kind of gave me the understanding that I could do this. And she posted one of the best like pieces of advice that I kind of still look to. And anytime someone asks me like, oh, how should I get started doing drag? I don't know. And she just said, like, just do it. There's like, you just have to do it. There's nothing that anyone can say that will make you want to do it any more than you wanting to do it because you love it. I mean, she's an incredible makeup artist, obviously, but I think she just has like a lot in her marketing and a lot in what she says and does. And she's super inspiring for all of that. And she is, one of the big mainstream AFAB queens. So gotta give respect to that. But she's also so cute. I love her makeup.
Oh my God, she is so beautiful. And the one thing I really love about her is she does a lot of like off color, like skin tones, like pink, green, purples, and all of those. And she makes it look like so beautiful. And she was one of the reasons I actually, when I did my Alien pink look a few years back, she was actually what inspired that look.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. So speaking of mainstream inspirations, how about Spiky Van Dyke?
Yes. Very good. I mean, I talked about my feelings with drag kings already. I mean, being a drag king, obviously I'm not like makeup or look inspired by him, but seeing, anything alternative in the sense of what's thought of as drag is always inspiring. And it's always like looking at all of these performers, there's something inspirational about all of them that you can kind of take and look at. And again, lovely to see, lovely to look at.
I love it. So we have one last one, and this one might be the iffy one. This one might actually be an Infires.
Oh God, okay.
She's a bitch. Everyone hates her. The one and only Maliena Bitchcock.
Oh my God, that is such a question. You really put me on the spot here.
Yeah, that's right. We'll just
I love you and you inspire me. Like, you are super one of my biggest inspirations. As far as like being a queen and fucking doing it. And you're just super kind and you're always so supportive. And I just love you so much. Like, yeah.
Oh, stop it. You know what? I thank you so much because that really means a lot. I'm personally going through some things right now, everyone. I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I will mention this at the end, that my puppy of 17 years passed away on Saturday. And I have been dealing with a lot of hard emotions since then. And I do want to just say, please, everyone, say a little prayer for baby Scooter as he passes the rainbow bridge up into doggy heaven, because he served me very well. Not served, but he treated me very well through my life. And all 17 years he was with me. I'm very grateful. So I just wanted to say that at the interview. But Bonnie, guess what?
What?
You made it! You
Oh my
survived Bitch Talk
God!
with Bitchcock!
Wow! I did it!
Honey, I am so happy you came on the show to share all of your secrets, talk about some of the struggles you go through, and really bring a big eye on the performers and the talents that come from all range of performers. I think you are beautiful and talented, and I just want to say thank you again for being here. Now, everyone, if you do love Bonnie Rose and you really appreciated this interview and you want to show a little appreciation, which I think you should do because we are dealing with rough times, boys and girls, and those in between. A lot of us performers have lost gigs or have quite a loss of income because we don't have those gigs anymore. Now, if you can tip even $1 does good. And if you're not going to tip me, I can accept that. But please at least tip this beautiful creature that is Bonnie Rose. Her Venmo, her PayPal, her Cash App information will be in the description. Again, anything that you can tip will be appreciated. If you would like to tip me also, because it's appreciated, my Venmo and PayPal is also in the description. Again, guys, this is tough times. I could really use some extra money. I'm running out of makeup very quickly doing these episodes. So if you want to give me $1, I need it. Ah! So,
and I would just like to say, if you are going to tip me, I'm distributing any tips I receive through the community because, again, I am lucky enough to be able to work from home and not, have a loss of income during this time. So if you are going to tip me, you can either take the moment to look at someone else in your community that does work in the gig industry or has lost their job due to this and tip them instead, which I would greatly appreciate. Or you can send it to me and I will disperse them among performers and people in the queer community here in Eugene. Because as much as I love the love, I am not the person that needs that support right now. So look within your communities and tip your people as well.
I think that is fantastic, Bonnie, and you're just showing how amazing you really are doing that. So I think that's truly beautiful. Okay, boys and girls, well, again, this was Bitch Talk with Bitchcock with the beautiful Bonnie Rose. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I love you.
Absolutely. If you would like to tune in for our next episode, we will have the one and only Locks by Lilac, Lilac herself on April 1st. So definitely tune in. And Bonnie, I love you so much. And I
love you.
I'm so happy you were here. So everyone, have a fantastic and safe week. We love you and we will see you Wednesday. I love you guys. Bye.
Bye.